Hi, I'm Chucky, and I'm your friend to the end.
Rule number 1 for surviving Zombieland: cardio.
Time to nut up or shut up.
This is now the United States of Zombieland.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the Pumpkin Patch. I'm your host for today, Jessica Moser, and today is a very special day because today is filled with my personal picks. I'm so excited to talk about these 4 movies and this one other media selection with you today, so let's get into it. For the classic movie for today, I have chosen the 1998 Bride of Chucky. The Child's Play movies were some of the first horror movies I was ever introduced to. And I didn't see a lot of horror movies as a very young person, so as a teenager, I saw the Child's Play movies, and then in 1998, when Bride of Chucky came out, I was really excited for the continuation of that series. This movie was written by Don Mancini and directed by Ronnie Yu. It stars Jennifer Tilly, who is the former lover of Charles Lee Ray. If you haven't seen the other movies in the Child's Play series prior to this one, Charles Lee Ray is a serial killer who ended up transferring his soul to a Chucky doll when he passed away. In addition, Brad Dourif returns as the voice of Chucky. He does an amazing job in all the Child's Play movies. I should have mentioned before, but this is the 4th installment in the Child's Play series, and it turns more toward comedy and some self-referential humor. Now, self-referential humor is not something we really do here at the Fall Horsemen, so I don't know about that part of it, but this is a really enjoyable movie. The story goes that Tiffany Valentine bribes police officers to give her all the disembodied pieces of the Chucky doll. When she gets back home, she takes those disembodied pieces, puts them back together, and tries to perform the same voodoo ritual that Charles Lee Ray performed 10 years ago in order to reawaken his spirit into the doll. It seems not to work at first, but she ends up being successful. When Chucky awakens, he is surprised to see Tiffany, and then she mentions to Chucky that right after Charles Lee Ray passed away, she found a ring, and she assumed it was an engagement ring and that he wanted to marry her. Chucky actually lets her know that he was not intending to marry her. She gets very upset, and through a series of events, Tiffany ends up being electrocuted in a bathtub. Not that Chucky had anything to do with it. I mean, he definitely did. And he transfers her soul into a bride doll. Chucky and Tiffany, now in doll form, decide that they need to find humans to transfer their souls into so that they can continue living their best, super stabby lives together. Enter Tiffany's neighbors, Jesse and James. Is that right? Jesse and James? Like Jessica and James? Wait a minute, what? Jesse and Jade. They begin a trip with by sending them a note and offering them money to take the dolls from one place to another, because they discovered that they need an amulet that was buried with Charles Lee Ray in order to transfer their souls back into human beings. It's very comedic, it's really funny, and still maintain that horror genre throughout. There's still definitely a lot of bloodshed and a lot of killing along the way through this trip. I think that if you haven't seen it, and if you haven't seen any of the movies in the Child's Play series, we've covered a few others on this channel so far, I think it's really worth it to watch this movie and really enjoy it. And honestly, Jennifer Tilly is the perfect person to play Tiffany. I can't imagine anyone else doing a better job than her. She really embodies it, and really her unique voice lent to the bride doll that Tiffany's soul ends up in is really perfect. This movie was also commercially successful. It cost about $25 million to make. Again, they had to animate dolls and all that good stuff. But it made $50 million in the box office. Also, Don Mancini said that he saw the cover of Bride of Frankenstein at a video rental store. I mean, it was the 90s. There were video rental stores. Some of you guys probably don't even remember video rental stores at this point. He saw a copy of Bride of Frankenstein, and that is what inspired him to make Bride of Chucky. Obviously, Bride of Chucky is more schlocky, but that is where he gained his inspiration to tell a new Chucky story. This is also going to be the first movie in the Child's Play series that goes away from focusing on Andy and really focuses on the character of Chucky. In fact, starting with this film and going forward, all of the films have Chucky's name in the title for that reason. I hope that you'll enjoy Bride of Chucky as much as we here at the Fall Horsemen do, but especially me. It's one of my favorites, and really, it's one of the ways I was introduced to the horror genre, and so it really has a special place in my heart. You can find it on Peacock, and then you can also find it for rent, but I know a lot of you guys out there subscribe to Peacock so you can watch Halloween Kills, so just watch Bride of Chucky while you're there. For the overlooked horror movie of the day, I've chosen the 2016 South Korean action horror movie Train to Busan. Train to Busan was directed by Young Sung-ho, takes place on a high-speed train between Seoul, South Korea and Busan, South Korea during the beginnings of a zombie apocalypse. It starts out with that old classic story of a workaholic dad who's trying to raise a daughter and is divorced from her mom. And so his daughter has one wish for her birthday, and that's to go to Busan to see her mom. Instead, the dad gets her a Wii, but it turns out that she already has a Wii, and he forgot. I don't know about you guys, but I remember when I buy a video gaming system, but you know, I guess if you're like focused on work that you just like, oh, just put a Wii in my Amazon cart, ship it to my daughter, be done. Maybe, I don't know. And so she's extremely disappointed in her dad. Honestly, in 2016, I might be disappointed that I got a Wii at that point too. I think the Wii U is out, but like my husband and I got a Wii for our wedding present in 2009. 2016 seems really late to be getting a Wii as a present, but what do I know? After so profoundly disappointing his daughter and embarrassing himself, he decides that he will grant his daughter her birthday wish to go to Busan to see her mother. During this time, we also see that there's been a chemical leak in a biotech plant, and that it has brought about a zombie-like disease that is spreading through South Korea. This is happening while father and daughter are on the train. At one of the stops on the train, a zombie enters the train car, and the passengers have to flee from the zombie when they discover that the zombie's infected. It's really a story of survival, but also there's somewhat of a redemption arc for several characters in this movie. It's very good and it's very worthwhile. I know that we have recommended a lot of foreign language horror films this year on the channel, or at least I've covered quite a few. This is another one that's subtitled, but it's really worth a watch. And if you do not believe me, then believe Edgar Wright, who is the director of Shaun of the Dead and one of the writers of Shaun of the Dead as well. And he said it's the best zombie movie that he has ever seen. Also, this movie calls zombies, zombies. You don't have to worry about finding some other terminology for zombies. They call zombies what they are, which is zombies. So that's an added boost as well. In fact, this is not the movie on my list that actually calls zombies zombies. I leaned heavy into zombies this year. I also leaned heavy into horror comedy, but we'll get back to the horror comedy in a minute. Train to Busan is not a comedy. It's a more serious zombie movie. Train to Busan cost $8.5 million to make, but it made back its budget plus $90 million. So I think it did all right in the box office as well. In fact, it was the highest grossing movie in South Korea in 2016. I hope that you'll really enjoy Train to Busan. You can find it on Peacock, but you can also find it on Tubi, Vudu, and Pluto TV. So you can get it for free if you're not a Peacock subscriber. And again, totally worth your time and totally worth reading the subtitles. This movie is really well-rounded in all areas, and I think you'll really enjoy it. For the first half of my two picks for the late night double feature picture show, I've chosen the 2019 movie Satanic Panic. This movie definitely leans into the horror comedy genre for sure. It's directed by Chelsea Stardust, and it's written by Grady Hendrix and Ted Geoghegan. Grady Hendrix has also written a bunch of books, including a book he wrote in 2021 called The Final Girl Support Group. Honestly, when I saw the title of that book, I immediately abandoned my research that I was doing for this movie and went straight to Audible, read a couple of reviews, decided I was going to read this book. So you may be hearing about that on a future episode of something we do here at the Fall Horsemen, but I was so excited when I read the description of the book, and it really took me off course, and in turn, I've taken you guys off course. Satanic Panic is a Fangoria production. It stars Haley Griffith, Ruby Modine, and Rebecca Romaine. Haley Griffith plays the lead character named Sam. Sam has started her first night as a pizza delivery driver, and she's experiencing something that I think every delivery driver has experienced, and that is a night where you're not getting a lot of tips. Look, people, tip your delivery drivers. They're bringing food to your house. That's the biggest luxury that we could possibly have, I feel like. Like tonight, I'm tired. We went to Netherworld last night. I'm probably gonna have food delivered to my house, but I'm gonna give that person an appropriate tip for bringing it to me so I didn't have to go anywhere. Anyway, soapbox done. Sorry. Again, lots of rabbit trails with Satanic Panic. So Sam has a large pizza delivery that she's doing to a wealthy neighborhood. She's so excited because she thinks like that her luck is finally turning around. Turns out when she gets there that her luck has not turned around. They do not give her a tip. Sam is fed up with not getting any tips, and so she rings the doorbell after she's made her delivery and demands to know why they didn't give her a tip. Well, it turns out that probably wasn't the best idea, because what she runs into, she stumbles into a meeting of a satanic coven led by Danica Ross, who's played by Rebecca Romaine. The group finds out that Sam is a virgin, and they decide they're going to capture her for a ritual that they're performing later. And then Sam, whose night has gotten significantly worse than getting no tips, for sure. Then Sam is forced to escape and then try to fight for her survival as the satanic coven is chasing her through this wealthy neighborhood. Part of Sam's coping mechanism for when she's scared is to just repeat the mantra, two fuzzy bunnies, and then that comes back into play at the very end of this movie in a very interesting way. During Sam's fight for her survival, there are a lot of other hilarious but also very gruesome things throughout this movie. Honestly, this movie, I think I turned my head away because I didn't want to look at what was happening on the screen more during this movie than I have in a long time. There are a lot of gruesome elements to this movie. I really enjoyed the mixture of humor with the serious horror elements that this film provided. I thought this movie was a really interesting watch, and I just really enjoyed it. And I especially enjoyed the performance of Rebecca Romaine. Jerry O'Connell also makes an appearance in this movie. Rebecca Romaine and Jerry O'Connell are married in real life, and they definitely were able to kind of make fun of themselves in this movie and in a way that really shined through to at least me as the audience. I hope you'll enjoy Satanic Panic. I hope you'll laugh and then cringe as much as I did. You can find Satanic Panic on Sling and on Amazon Prime. For the second half of my double feature picture show, I've chosen the 2009 film Zombieland. Definitely a horror comedy if you haven't seen it. Definitely a zombie comedy. Also, they call zombies zombies in this movie as well. Even though this movie was made in 2009, which is definitely within the red area in the timeline where we may want to rename zombies as a different name. Zombieland definitely does not do that. Zombie is, of course, in the title of this movie. In Zombieland, mad cow disease has mutated to become mad human disease. During the opening of Zombieland, we're a few months into the zombie outbreak. We're introduced to the zombie outbreak through the character of Columbus, who's played by Jesse Eisenberg. He's a college student who's trying to travel from Columbus, Ohio to Austin, Texas, where he's from, to see if his parents are still alive. Along the way, he meets Tallahassee, who is played by Woody Harrelson, and they team up together to take the rest of this road trip. Tallahassee also has a different mission other than just making sure they find Columbus's parents, and that is his existential quest for Twinkies. Tallahassee, through the movie, is very obsessed with Twinkies and finding them. Products like that have become scarce during a zombie apocalypse, of course. You may have noticed that Columbus and Tallahassee are cities, and honestly, one of the recommendations of the government when the zombie outbreaks start is in order to not get attached to too many people, you call them by nicknames, including where they're from, instead of calling them by their actual names. Through the movie, we don't learn people's actual names. Eventually, Columbus and Tallahassee meet up with Wichita and Little Rock, who are played by Emma Stone and Abigail Breslin. Turns out, Little Rock and Wichita are con women. They end up stealing Columbus and Tallahassee's Escalade. It's very clear they've stolen their Escalade because Tallahassee is also spray painted a number 3 on the side of the Escalade because he really loves Dale Earnhardt, who is a race car driver. They all end up back together and they head toward Pacific Playland in Los Angeles, which they've heard is a zombie-free area. After Columbus finds out that perhaps his parents are not alive or not in Austin anymore. So they all agree to travel that way together. As their journey continues, they have several adventures, including a stop that includes an appearance by one Bill Murray, which is an iconic scene in this movie that I will not spoil for you. One interesting thing that I learned as I was reading and doing research about this movie is that the part that Bill Murray plays was actually supposed to be played by Patrick Swayze. Unfortunately, he had already been diagnosed with pancreatic cancer at that point, and so because of that, he wasn't able to fulfill his commitment to this role because he was so sick. He actually passed away in 2009, which is the same year this movie came out. After Patrick Swayze couldn't do this part, they actually had a few other people in mind, including Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Can't remember who else. Matthew McConaughey, which that could have been interesting, and Mark Hamill. And Mark Hamill is a really funny person, and so I think he would have done a good job, but honestly, I can't imagine anybody else in that spot other than Bill Murray. It just strikes the right comedic tone for that moment in the movie. Zombieland is really funny, and it really has a similar tone to Shaun of the Dead, which is one of my other favorite horror comedies, and especially one that involves zombies. And so I hope that you'll enjoy it as much as I do. It looks like right now Zombieland is not available on any streaming service. It's only available for you to rent. Also, the special effects makeup for this movie were done by Tony Gardner. Tony Gardner also assisted in creating the look of the zombies in Michael Jackson's Thriller video. It was interesting that he got to evolve and create new zombie looks in Zombieland. One other part of the movie that's quintessential is Columbus lives by a set of specific rules that help keep him alive throughout the movie, and we see those rules come up on screen. Rule number 1 is cardio. There are other rules, but I'll let you guys discover that for yourself when you watch Zombieland. But if you have to rent it, I think it's worth it, and I think that you'll laugh and really enjoy it throughout. For the horror and other media selection, I've chosen the 2018 DC animated series, Constantine City of Demons. Constantine City of Demons is available on HBO Max. I say it's a series, but it's really only 2 episodes on HBO Max. When it aired on CW Seed, which is how it originally aired, it was a 5-part series that was shorter. So it's called a series in almost everything that I read when I was doing my research, but really it's only a couple of episodes, or you can watch it more like a movie. Constantine City of Demons is a loose adaptation of the DC comic book series Hellblazer: All the Engines. In case you're not familiar with John Constantine, 1, he's voiced by Matt Ryan, who also plays him in the DC TV universe on CW. And John Constantine is a demon and an occult detective. He dresses like a classic like detective's coat, which I've always thought was a cool nod to detective series, but also to the fact that DC originally stands for Detective Comics. But J.T. Wheatley from History of Comic Books can tell you more about that than I could. Constantine City of Demons is a spin-off of sorts from the 2007 series Justice League Dark, which is also an animated series, which you can also find on HBO Max. I would also recommend that to you, but I really love DC animated content. In case you couldn't tell, I think this is the second time I've talked about it just on Days of Halloween. though it is an animated series, is definitely also rated R. I would not recommend it for children. Has a few scenes where I also turned my head because I felt like it was gross or gruesome. It's the second thing on my list where I've said that I've turned my head because it was gross. Do I really like gross things? That's a whole conversation for another day, and maybe for a therapist and not for you guys. In Constantine City of Demons, John Constantine is visited by an old friend who he hasn't seen in 10 years named Chaz Chandler. Chaz comes to John to beg him to help his daughter Trish. Trish has been in a coma for a while, and Chaz believes that dark magic may be to blame, and he doesn't know who to turn to other than Constantine. One of the first things that John Constantine does in response to this is he summons the Nightmare Nurse to try to find Trish's soul, and when she can't find it, she decides to stand guard while John and Chaz go through Los Angeles to try to restore Trish's soul to her body. There are definitely some darker elements in Constantine City of Demons, but I thought it was really enjoyable, and it was really a different and interesting look into magic. It's interesting to see the magical powers portrayed in a male format instead of in a female format. It's just something I really enjoyed, and I really enjoyed the different approach. I also, again, I love DC animated content. I would highly recommend it. Again, you can find it on HBO Max or for rental, but I think you should check it out, and I think that you should check out a lot of DC animated content, including Justice League Dark as well. I hope you enjoy. Alright, Pumpkin Patch, that's it for my day of Halloween. I hope you guys will enjoy all these selections. And if you would please, click or treat. That's where you give us a big thumbs up if you like this video. Subscribe to our channel, and then share it with other people who you think will like it. But if all you ever do is just watch these videos, we really appreciate you, and we love you so much for doing that. We love being able to share our ramblings with you. If you want more spooky content, also stalk us on all the social media that you'll find somewhere on the screen. I don't know. Somewhere. Hi, all the socials. And again, thank you for riding with Fall Horsemen, where Halloween lives and fall is forever. Totally worth when Charles Lee Ray If you haven't seen the other this movie, I'm just gonna look at this real quick. Written by Don Mancini, directed by me. And it stars Jennifer Tilly. Why can I not get through this part? Ugh. I love Jennifer Tilly too. She's amazing, right? I'm gonna try that one more time. That's better. The story goes that Tiffany Valentine trained to Busan after disappointing goodness. Alright. After disappointing his daughter, so that's an and someone else. Including a book he wrote goodness. And then also somebody whose name I can't remember. Oh, and Ruby Modine, who I love. It just tried, that's not how I want to say that. Abigail Breslin, of course. I don't know what I was going to say next. Which I'm definitely stuttering over. It's not really what I mean either. Constantine City of Demon. Oh goodness, that was my phone. No. That's not what I was trying to say. What do I mean there? That's not really what I'm trying to say. Classic Detectives Cult. What? Coat. Not Colt. Constantine